hopefully if they do this right, when Rhea is able to come back, that she comes back on fire.
Mm. Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, she can't be happy because I know she got injured, but I tend to think, well, you know, like I even said on Twitter, everybody's going, well, Roman had a part-time contract. I'm like, I don't give a shit. You know,
Hey, well, at the end of the day, there's a storyline ready for her to come back because we've
yeah,
seen this many
there is.
times.
I mean,
Yeah, we've seen this many times. Someone has to hand their belt injury to injury, and then the minute they come back, they're like, "I'm still the champ. I never lost
yep.
it." So,
Oh,
but
Uso and El Champion had some words today in the ring too, and Uso goes, well, just because Rhea's gone doesn't mean you're really in charge and stuff like that. Like, oh shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, welcome all you
Yep.
wrestling fans to the 29th episode of the Pop-Up Powerbomb Podcast. I'm your host, the Moon Man, the man with the stars, and I have my partner in crime, the Cerebral Powerbomb Paul. Tonight, wrestling fans, going to share our thoughts on a number of interesting topics, from Rhea Ripley being put on the shelf. We had AEW's Dynasty pay-per-view, of course, on the weekend, and whole bunch of other interesting stuff. Of course, we had some WWE releases and plans for a big WWE debut. But first off, we're going to talk, and I know we've talked several times about Jack Perry on recent episodes. Well, he finally made his AEW re-debut at Dynasty this weekend, but he is continuing to be called out for being disrespectful to CM Punk. And it's wrestlers in the industry more so that are calling him out. Obviously, anybody that knows or anybody that's been around the industry as long as, say, me and Paul know the ins and outs, intricacies, and how there's a code of conduct in necessary, with a lot of the wrestlers, how you should act
Yep.
and treat one another and such. And Jack Perry at a
Rules.
young age.
Yeah. Rules both written and unwritten,
Yes,
basically.
yeah. And Jack Perry has continued to break several of them. And this is funny of who was the latest to talk about this. So while speaking on his Off the Top podcast, WWE Hall of Famer and father to Solo Sikoa and the Usos, Rikishi, talked about Perry and CM Punk's backstage altercation. He also called out Perry for being disrespectful to CM Punk. And I quote, he said, "Here's the disrespect level that I see in that. CM Punk has paved the way on the indie circuit. He's been out there for, 15 years, however long it was, man. He's not the same age as that young cat. So whatever the drama that is, when you come back and you're talking to a veteran, sometimes you need to bite your tongue and give the older guys a respect level because you can still learn something from them, especially from Punk." And Jack Perry has just not handled this or handled himself in any regard whatsoever. He is being completely immature in the situation and just absolutely disrespectful, not just to Punk, but realistically to any older generation of wrestler, which is true. I mean, if you're going to disrespect one, I'm quite sure you'd be willing to disrespect many. And he seems to have this real cockiness and chip on his shoulder. I don't think it would be there if his father was still alive. I think Luke Perry would smack the crap out of him. Because I know Luke Perry was just an actor, right? But you go through history and people that have been interviewed about him, whether that was other cast members on 90210, the cast members on the Buffy the Vampire movie, as well as many other TV series and movies that he's been on. And he was one of the most well-respected people there, and he was quite respectful. So I would imagine when he was alive, he would have been teaching Jack, to be respectful, especially to your elders and stuff. And it's been since the passing that there's been this change in attitude. And at first, I thought, I didn't jump to conclusions at first. I thought to myself, maybe it was just character related. But as time's gone on, I'm like, no, because he's doing this behind the scenes when you don't have to be in character. And so you can't say that it's an on-screen character thing. This is just a young dude who, as Undertaker would say, might need the taste slapped out of his mouth to wake him up, because you can't do that. And still on the subject, last week's Dynamite was ridiculous. Them showing that footage, because all it did, right, was two things. It showed that Punk was telling the truth in all his interviews, for starters, right? Yeah. And second of all it did was give more fame to Punk, because even their own crowd, this is where it backfired, even their own crowd chanted for CM Punk and would cheer him on and say, get him, Punk, right? And like Punk said, all he did was choke him a little bit. And yet,
I still love that. All I did was choke him a little bit. I heard him.
And realistically, there was more of a. He wasn't choking for that long, but it was more of a shove.
Yeah.
And then maybe he was grabbing him. I reckon more probably just a little bit to shake him and give him a bit of a scare. Like, don't talk to me like that kind of thing. And Joe had
right.
Joe,
so let me just say real quick. Let me just interject that. Even though, Jack Perry's being a disrespectful little twerp, I still don't think that Punk was faultless in all of this. Sorry, no, I mean, he's got to take some responsibility himself.
At the same token, we don't know what the exchange of words were either. There could have been something that was said that set him off.
But he did lay hands on another person.
Yeah, so, Punk, and the thing is Punk admitted that, whereas Jack Perry, and he apologized for it. Like he's kind of, he goes, I should have handled it a lot better. The thing is as you see in the video, it really was like a schoolyard scrap in reality. Joe was there. Joe came over, Samoa Joe, and pulled him apart and told Punk to stop, and Punk stopped immediately. Tony Khan got made to look like a complete idiot and liar, because
I was afraid for my life. Punk kissed my ass.
Punk didn't charge at him at all. He leant over the table at him, pointing at him, and like Punk said, he said, "This is a clown show. You run your company as a fucking joke. This is stupid. This is bullshit." And then you see Malachi Black come over because he's friends with Punk, and they walk off together. Right. Obviously to calm Punk down. If I was in Punk's shoes, I would have said the same thing to the boss running there. It is a clown show over there. It's run by a kid, essentially, in a man's body, but he's a mark, he's a child, he's man-child, and he has no idea what he's freaking doing. And it was clear as day, because he sat behind the desk. If that, not that I really want to mention, but if that had been Vince would have been jumping over the bloody table, trying to separate him and getting involved in himself. Right? And saying, we've got a code of conduct here, this is not right, separate. But there is no way in that footage that suggests to me that Tony Khan was in any fucking danger. If he didn't like Punk telling him off about how his company's run like dog shit, then smarten up and stop running your company like dog shit.
Well, no, he was in danger. He was in danger of everybody seeing him wet himself on national TV. But,
Wet himself. He's obviously not used to somebody yelling at him. You'd think you would be, considering he's around football locker rooms and that, and there's a lot of yelling and stuff that goes on in football locker rooms.
Yeah, but never at him, because he's the owner's boy. So
yeah, exactly. But like, he should have expected this. There's always fireworks in wrestling, in backstage. There's been numerous times over the years of fights, legitimate fights breaking out backstage. Jericho and Goldberg, bloody Ray and Batista early in the part.
Ray and Batista, that must have been like ugly. Wow.
It was the opposite way around to what I thought was going to happen, but Ray kind of gave it to him.
That's because Ray is quick. That's why.
Booker T and I forget who it was Booker T and somebody else got bloody fight as well. It happens. It's known. Like, you're not always gonna have friends in wrestling, but you got to know still how to act. And Punk's in WWE, and I'm quite sure there's a handful of guys, or we know a few of them, they don't like him and he doesn't like them. But at least they can have respect for each other in the sense of we don't have to be friends. We don't have to sit down for a Christmas dinner or in Turkey or whatever and have a drink. But when we're working together in a feud, still got to look after each other. And they know how to hold themselves and carry themselves backstage. I'm quite sure probably one of the best things that they probably do is don't get in each other's faces backstage, avoid each other. You know, unless they have to sit down to talk because they're in a feud. But even then, after this is what's going to happen in the match. Cool, no worries. One's going that way and one's going the opposite way. Plain and simple, easy done. But no, Jack Perry continues to disrespect Palomini. Disrespected the Chicago flag, as well at the New Japan show. He's just going a bit overboard with the stuff now. And Tony Khan's just letting it run, see, because he's one of Tony Khan's boys, see, that was there from the get-go. So, just like with the Young Bucks, they just get a slap on the bloody wrist, you know?
Yep.
And essentially Jack was. I mean, no, he wasn't on AEW TV for a while, but Tony sent him over to New Japan. New Japan is New Japan, it's not AEW, so he was still getting paid, he was still getting noticed, he was still getting talked about. Now he's back in AEW, so... but it is what it is. On to the next bit of news. Wonder how you're going to feel about this. It's to do with your boy too. This one surprised me. Cody Rhodes is set to star in Naked Gun reboot.
I saw something about that.
Yeah.
I think if he's got any of his father's charisma and stuff like that, which I think he does, I think it could be fun. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And here's the thing.
Because if you go back and look at the old footage of Dusty, and some of the stuff he did was hilarious. Absolutely,
well, he's going to make a cameo apparently in it, so he's not going to be the main star. Because according to the Daily Mail, Cody Rhodes is set to make his film debut in the upcoming reboot of the classic comedy The Naked Gun, alongside notable stars like Pamela Anderson and Liam Neeson. Rhodes will be making a cameo appearance, with insiders hinting at a potential hypnotism scene that pays homage to the original 1988 comedy. Cody may be having a huge feud with The Rock still as we speak, but now it looks like the battle will extend to Hollywood, as he is going to star in the new Naked Gun film. So the new movie, which continues the popular Naked Gun film franchise, originally starring the late great Leslie Nielsen, is expected to blend comedy with action, with Liam Neeson leading the cast. So Liam Neeson's essentially taken over the main role. While Rhodes' role may be brief, insiders have revealed that it is important to the overall story of the film. So, but the thing is, I think
that'll be neat. Yeah, that'll be fun.
He can act a little bit because he has prior acting experience, having appeared in several episodes of the TV series such as Arrow and, of course, the TV series Warehouse 13. But this film marks his first significant role on the actual big screen.
And really, even as a wrestler doing what he does, he's acting. That is acting.
Well,
Even if it's close to what he'd really like, he's still acting, you know.
So the movie itself's been directed by Kiva Schaffer and featuring a script written by the creative team behind the live-action Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. The new Naked Gun movie aims to capture the spirit of the original while updating it for modern audiences. So, although details about the plot remain scarce, the insider indicated that Rhodes' cameo would nod to the original's hypnotism plotline, which involved businessman Vincent Ludwig, played by Ricardo Montalban, using hypnosis to control others. I wonder if Cody's going to be the dude that's doing the hypnosis. That'd be pretty. The fans of the original Naked Gun and wrestling enthusiasts alike can look forward to this star-studded reboot, with Cody adding his unique charisma and humour to the mix. No release date just yet, so I'm going to take a guess and say it'll probably be next year. But I think it'll be cool. As I said, he's only got a bit role, so don't know exactly how long he will be on the screen for. But it'll be cool. It'll be nice little notch on his belt. It's a lot of these guys, you know, dabble in a bit of TV and movies outside. You know, like we've seen Cena, obviously now he's a big star like The Rock. We've seen even Randy Orton and Triple H themselves have popped up in some B-grade movies. Miz has been doing all the Marines.
Well, CM Punk was on our favorite show, you know.
I'm telling you now, that man after he finished, he's got a career in TV because I think he's brilliant as Ricky Rabies. Like he could definitely do. I loved him in. I'm just spaced on the movie now, but he's done horror too. Comedy and horror, Punk's really good at. So if he sticks to comedies or horror, I think he'll do really well because he's got some good acting chops there.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, Edge, he was in like seasons of what was it?
Well, he's still going to be in that show. The one from this last year on Disney Channel.
Well, he's in that. Yeah, is it something to do with Merlin and stuff like that? Is it? Is that what
I can't remember the name of the kid. The son of the god. He's he's one of the gods. Yeah, he's.
And then he was in the sci-fi show. I'm spacing on the name of it now, but he was in many seasons of the show on sci-fi.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Look, it's good. It just adds another. I mean, I've seen recent pictures of Roman dressed up as Santos Escobar. That's who he looks like in the big suit that he's in. On the set of his movie. So as soon as I seen the picture, I think it was yesterday, I seen the pictures of it, and I'm like, why is he looking like Santos Escobar? Like it's Santos's flashy suits that he comes out in. But no, that's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to that. The only concern I would have right now is, look, I love Liam Neeson, but I think he's a little bit too serious. Like, because he mainly does serious movies, even serious action movies. And I just don't know. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to have the comedy shtick like Leslie Nielsen, though. Like, Leslie Nielsen was funny as hell.
Okay. You're a little bit younger than me, but let me tell you, before Leslie did those roles, he was known as a very serious actor, dude.
Yeah, I know. He did a lot of serious stuff.
He had never done comedy before he did Airplane, I believe, was his first comedy. And he was worried about it. Yeah. So
Naked Gun, he was funny as hell, bro.
Because he'd always done straight-laced stuff. He'd always done straight-laced drama. So,
because I'm trying to think off the top, and I've seen plenty of Liam Neeson movies. I'm just trying to think.
And I think Liam Neeson can pull it off because he strikes me as the type of guy who could be that Leslie Nielsen, just saying stuff without and thinking it's totally normal, but it's not. And he's never in on the joke. That's the whole thing. That's why Leslie works, because the way he played it, he was never in on the joke or the gag.
Right.
He never understood why everybody was giving him the side eye.
As I said, like I love Liam Neeson. I'll be watching it. I hope he proves me wrong, because as I said, I've only ever seen the man in like you mentioned with Leslie, in real serious stuff. Like, we've seen him in Star Wars Episode 1, which was
right.
We've seen him as Rob Roy back in the day with the kilt and everything. All the bloody Taken movies and everything else in between. It's always been serious action. So, I mean, I'm glad to see him in something that's going to be like comedic, because it needs to be comedic action. And I know Liam Neeson's a phenomenal actor, so I really think he'll add something. I hope he proves me wrong, because I'm like you were mentioning, Leslie was a bit worried when he first started with comedy. Like, I'm a bit worried for Liam, but who knows? Maybe he's got more of a funny bone in him than any of us realise. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know where Pam Anderson's going to fit into it, though. That was an interesting casting.
It is, because if she's supposed to be the hot tamale, remember, she's a lot older than she was in the 80s, you know?
And she's had too much work done. Like, she's no hot tamale.
I think what it's going to be is she's going to be the role that Priscilla Presley was in the old movie.
Yeah.
She's going to be Liam Neeson's love interest, basically.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that, because as I said, she's not She's definitely not the looker that she once was. Because I think she's done too much work to her face. Like some people do, they in Hollywood, they go a bit overboard, and then they're like, "You're slightly a bit unrecognizable anymore." You know, it's like just let yourself age, like it's just a natural thing. You know.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're in Hollywood, I mean, you know, getting a facelift or two here and there and doing small things, sort of, I guess, is one thing. But having complete plastic surgery where people have messed it right up.
When your skin has been pulled so tight that, you know, it's like, yeah, no.
Yeah,
There comes a point where, yeah.
Exactly. But moving along on to Dynasty that happened this weekend. Now, this was first and foremost before we get into the results. All right.
I will. By the way, heads up. I forgot all about it. Didn't watch it.
That's
I know
all right.
it's available on YouTube.
Yep.
But yeah.
Catch it when you can, because there was a 10 out of 10, and you don't usually get 10 out of 10. Sorry, not a 10 out of 10. A 10-star match. We've heard a 4-star, 5-star match. Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay. If you're going to watch it for anything, watch it for that match. It is a 10-star match. You don't get to see 10-star matches that often, but those two brought the house down. And like me and you and others have discussed and said on numerous occasions, the one thing that AEW can do right is because they have some of the best talent in the world, they do have phenomenal wrestling in between the ropes.
Yeah.
It's everything else outside the fucking ropes that's a disaster. So, after a good pay-per-view of wrestling, not story, but wrestling, they go and ruin it, don't they, in the fucking media scrum. Use the language, but they do. Why? Because several of them still doing this immature shit. I don't know why Tony's doing it, because all you're doing is sending eyes elsewhere of taking pot shots at frickin' WWE. Tony Storm did it, pertaining to Cody Rhodes finishing the story. She had a pot shot about that and mixed it into what she was saying. You even had Will Ospreay, without bringing up by name, but he was talking about him taking a pot shot a couple of weeks ago back at Triple H. There's something Triple H said, and I don't think when Triple H said what he said, it was directed at any one person. Triple H made a statement a few weeks back that if you're young, you know, what they consider young, even young 30s, right? And you're not in this for the grind, meaning WWE's type of schedule, then he's glad he didn't pick you and hire you. Because at that age, or if you're younger, the grind's going to be nothing for you. He can understand when you start getting up to those mid-40s and older, if you're still wrestling, yeah, okay, sure, you want a lighter schedule. If you're young and you're taking an easy route out, in the sense of schedule-wise, he doesn't want you. And he doesn't think you're worth it. And that wasn't a pot shot or anything.
No, it was a statement of fact where WWE's at right now.
And Will Ospreay, as much as I love him, took it that it was directed at him because he chose AEW over WWE. But it wouldn't be. Triple H understands the talent that Will Ospreay is, and he would have loved him there. But the thing is, I don't think Will chose AEW because of the lighter schedule. There's a lot of people that think he did, and I don't think it's that, because he's only 30, literally 30, right on the nose. I think it's because Tony Khan is willing to work with him in the sense Will Ospreay doesn't really want to leave England, as in living. That's where his wife is. That's where his kids are.
Right.
He flies out all the time, flies back and forth. He was doing that in Japan. He was still living in England, but he would fly constantly every week to Japan to do a show. He's doing the same here. And so I don't think WWE's schedule would have allowed for that you know, and so that's why I think he chose AEW in the if WWE would have allowed him to stay in England as his base and he could fly all the time. But the thing is, and I would see where WWE would be worried about it. Clearly, obviously at the moment, Will Ospreay's gotten used to it, but you'd be worried about the constant jet lag of the poor guy going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between England and America, you know. So that's what he wants to do, though. I hope maybe, you know, eventually, maybe he's waiting for because I know his kid is quite young, might be waiting for him to be a bit older, and maybe then they'll make the move across to America so, you know, they can settle sort of somewhere where it's going to be less travel on him.
Yeah.
But that's what he wants to do. So I think that's the only reason in reality he chose AEW was because of that. But again, they don't need... I've seen them do it on TV. TNA had a problem with this for a while, right? Before Scott D'Amore got there. Always referencing WWE, and then they'd bring the guys that WWE had fired or let go, and they'd come in, and then they'd fucking make a bloody promo based on their bloody, you know, WWE. And then now you've got and it's not a good look. It makes the company look immature, and it's like, have you just got WWE on your mind? You shouldn't be worried about WWE. You shouldn't be worried about anybody else other than your own company and putting on a great show and pleasing your fans that are buying tickets to you. But they seem to be in this constant round circle of saying something. They even had Edge, Adam Copeland now in AEW, a few weeks back, kind of subtly taking shots. And it's like, well, why? Look where it got WCW in the end. Gone. Like, they're so focused on the competition that couldn't give two stuffs about them because they're not really competition for them. They're not in any danger of being neck and neck like WCW was for fucking, 83 weeks or whatever it was. AEW is nothing WWE to worry. They're not looking over worrying about them, so therefore they're not talking about them, you know?
Well, and basically, it's to borrow the phrase, Tony Khan's got WWE living rent-free in his head.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
It is. They ruined, as I said, by doing that, a good pay-per-view because that's what a lot of people are talking about. Like, really, why are you taking these shots? Like, they're not taking shots at you. None of their wrestlers in their promo, even on a subtle basis, are not taking, because they're not worried. They're just getting on with what they have to do, you know, and putting on their shows. That's all AEW needs to focus on. If they keep down this path, it is going to turn people off because they're going to be like, they're constantly going on about WWE or trying to take shots at WWE. And all it does, like, look at what the Young Bucks did with the whole footage thing. They thought that was taking a shot at WWE because Punk is over there now. And it backfired. Not only did
more
the crowd...
were talking about Punk than anything else.
Yeah.
More people were talking about
and
Punk.
Therefore, because of where he's signed right now, all eyes go back on that product. It's like, that backfired. Every other time you do this shit, it's backfired. Like, outside the wrestling, WWE is the better product. Without a shadow of a doubt. You know? WWE might not have that real hardcore style, but that's because they want longevity for their wrestlers and stuff like that. But they are slowly starting to allow their wrestlers to work a little bit stiffer than what we're used to, which is a good thing.
Right.
You know, they don't have to be so soft on it, but they also don't want their wrestlers picking up real severe injuries. And there was a scare at the pay-per-view, and thankfully he's all right. But Danielson, it was still all part of apparently to get a bit of shock and awe as well. But he did have a bit of a stinger in his neck. So Will Ospreay has retired one of his signature moves where he basically dropped someone on their head because he doesn't want to hurt anybody, you know. And
Right.
even though it was more played on than anything else, Danielson, with his neck history, that's probably why he got a bit of a stinger. You know, you've got to be careful with someone like that. But
Oh yeah.
outside that, good pay-per-view, as I mentioned. There's a few title changes. You had a few matches on the pre-card. One of them was for the winner takes all title unification match for the AEW World Trios Championship and the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Championship, where Bullet Club Gold, which has Billy Gunn's kids and Jay White, they actually won. Great match between them and the Acclaimed with Billy. Good back and forth way to lead into the actual pay-per-view. And then, of course, we had a singles match to kick the actual pay-per-view off between Okada and Puck, where Okada was defending his Continental Championship. Probably one of the hardest hitting matches of the night. These two are just brutal as they come. Hence why Puck's got the nickname the Bastard. These two hit each other with everything, man. Every ounce of power that they had within their bodies. But Okada ended up winning in the end and retaining his championship. But a good match, man. It went for a good 20 minutes. Then we had a trios match. We had the House of Black taking on the three-man team of Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe. Of course, the House of Black won. This is going to be a bit of a long feud, I dare say, between Malachi and Adam Copeland, and I think it was the right decision. Great trios match too. Everybody got their spots, which was surprisingly, because usually in these types of matches, someone's usually missing out or a couple are missing out, not being able to get, showcased. But no, everybody involved, all six men got to showcase their stuff. They had a good, I'd say about 18 or so minutes. Malachi, of course, got the pin on Adam Copeland in the end. But that's a feud that's building. Hopefully they don't stuff up the actual build to it. But good match. Then we had Willow Nightingale defeating Julia Hart and becoming the new AEW Women's TBS champion. And of course, everybody was banned from ringside, so it was a fair one-on-one fight. Good match between the women. Short match, but a good match nonetheless. As I said, that's another weak area for AEW, is they don't seem to give their women any sort of spotlight. It's always short matches, and it's only about 5 minutes long. These two women that were in there can actually go. You could have actually easily put on at least a good 15-minute match. And they just never seem to give them time. So, as great as these two were, I would have liked to see more. But, they always cut them short. But what I will give them is at least they had two women's matches instead of the one. So, that was something. Because usually they only do one. Or sometimes none at all. But then, of course, we had the AEW International Championship match. Roderick Strong retained against Kyle O'Reilly. These two know each other so well. A bunch of them came up through the independent scene. Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and that through Ring of Honor, etc. And then obviously they were all in NXT for a while. And this was a good match, a really, really good match, well paced. Wasn't any story there. It was kind of just, once again, a typical AEW thing, thrown together, two great wrestlers, and they put on a hell of a show. Taz's son Hook defended his FTW championship and lost to Chris Jericho. That was a surprise for me. It got brutal because it's also not a recognised championship. It's a championship that Taz introduced all the way back in ECW. You can just imagine what FTW stands for. Jericho, man, went back to his roots, came out as Lionheart. If everybody remembers Lionheart, Chris Jericho, that was back in the original ECW days and Cruiserweight WCW days, where he was just a nasty son of a bitch in the ring. And that's what you got. I tell you what, for a man his age, the man still moves, man. And he really, I think with this match, helped put Hook on the mat, regardless that he defeated Hook and took the belt. Really put Hook on the pathway to stardom. And this is where Jericho's at. You know, this is one thing I love about Jericho. I've got a lot of respect for. He, even at his age, can still make a young guy that's on the up and up look good. And
yeah,
he's at that age that he just wants to help people. And he helped elevate Darby in the early piece. He helped elevate MJF. He's helped a bunch of the young guys over there. And now he's helping Taz's son. Taz's son, phenomenal wrestler, man. Like, the kid just wrestles exactly like his dad. All these different kinds of suplexes. At least it's not boring like Brock Lesnar with the one kind of suplex. Hook could do T-bone suplexes, German suplexes, you know, a normal suplex. He's got a bunch of suplex, man, but he makes it look different every single time he gets you in one. And he was throwing Jericho around a bit, which was kind of funny to watch. But no, this is going to be good because it's going to extend the feud. Hook's going to want that belt back, and Taz is involved, which I thought was a nice little touch too, because Taz and Jericho have history all the way back to ECW days, the original ECW. So I thought it was great, and I can't wait to see where the feud goes from here. It's one of the feuds that was built up nicely, and I hope whoever's doing the writing for that particular feud, I hope stays on it, because it's definitely not Tony Khan, that's for sure. It's good. It's one of the better feuds to watch from a story perspective as well. Then we had the singles match for the AEW Women's Championship. It was a good match. Again, there was two people that were just thrown together. Toni Storm retained and done her whole old school Marilyn Monroe kind of thing that she's got going on at the moment. Thunder Rosa looks like she needs a few more matches under her belt. I know she only recently returned, but she looks a little bit slower than what we're used to. Mind you, she did have quite a devastating injury, was out for quite a period of time. I'm going to leave this one, even though it followed it, but I'll come to the ladder match for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. The Young Bucks becoming 3-time AEW World Tag Team Champions, defeating FTR. Great match, like it always is with these two teams. Doesn't matter how you feel about either one of them. They are two of probably the best tag teams in the world. You've got the high-flying style of the Young Bucks, of course, mixing with FTR style, which has been referred to, and I agree with. They really remind me of Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, that kind of old-school style.
Right.
Which really, surprisingly enough, matches up against any style. So they can deal with the flippity-floppity style of the Young Bucks. But it was a good match. And I thought, again, it extends a feud between the two of them. This is a feud that's just reigniting and restarting. Young Bucks currently now got the claim that they're the best, so FTR is going to come back. We had, in my opinion, the match of the damn year with Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. They had over 30 minutes to put on the best wrestling that you're probably ever going to see in 2024. These two guys left it absolutely all in the ring. They brought out the best in each other. You had the best, or arguably the best technical wrestler of his generation, Bryan Danielson, taking on arguably the best wrestler on the planet. Man, as I said, if for nothing else, folks, you don't want to run through, you're not a big AEW fan, you find it boring, whatever. you're going to watch one match from that pay-per-view, watch that match. Is some of the best.
I'll have to dig it up.
Yeah, it is some of the best wrestling you will ever witness. These two guys it was just insane, man. It was insane. The moves that there's a few times that you thought, whoa, has he knocked him out? Because they were hitting each other hard, and it was just full on. And the styles matched up so beautifully because Danielson's not just a technical; he can do high flying stuff too. And Ospreay can just do it all. He's just so well rounded. But that was a phenomenal match. Had you on the edge of your seat to the end. And even the way they played the end up, Danielson just lying there as if he couldn't move. That and Will Ospreay's concerned like that was really cool. By them too. They took that on their own accord. Apparently, Danielson had a lot of input in the writing of how that will went down. He's another one that's at that stage of his career too. That's wanting to put the young guys over, and Will Ospreay still being one of the young guys. Danielson did a fantastic job in that match. I can't say enough about it. It was just stellar. Absolutely stellar. 10-star match, and you don't see it too often. Then, of course, we finished the night off with Samoa Joe defending his AEW World Championship against no other than one of my favourites, Swerve Strickland. And Swerve won. He not only won, but he became the first African-American world champion in their company's history. So he broke a record and set a record there. Great match. Probably the second best match on the card behind Ospreay and Danielson. I mean, that was always going to be hard to freaking follow and top. But both these guys did a fantastic job. And I was glad they finally gave Swerve he deserves this. He's another guy that's young guy. He needed this win. He'd been working his tail off to get in that world title picture for a couple of years now. Probably one of the best workers and storytellers in the industry. I dare say WWE will have very, very hard eyes on him when his contract's coming to an end. We know he was in NXT with them, and he was doing a fantastic job in NXT. For the life of me, I think Vince was still in charge at the time. I never understood why they let him walk out the door. The guy's a talent on the microphone, storytelling, and in that ring. And I hope Tony Khan's going to give him a decent run with the championship because he certainly earned it. And he's another one like Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, like night in, night out. He will be there. He will work. He's what did they nickname Seth Paul? The working man's champion.
Oh yeah.
And this
because he was showing up every week and doing his thing.
Yeah, almost defending it bloody nearly every week too.
Yeah.
But Swerve's going to be that guy too. And hey, what's good? The Rocket One's joined us. What's good, love? But yeah, man, like I'd say it was a good solid 7 out of 10. The pay-per-view. And as I said, there were some matches I really, really enjoyed over others. Like, I did enjoy Jericho and Hook. Absolutely loved Ospreay and Danielson. The tag match was pretty good too, and loved watching Swerve win. But as I said at the top, they had to go and ruin it then. And Tony Khan, even taking his own little pot shots, had to ruin it in the media scrum. I was like, there's no need for it. Let's talk about the pay-per-view you just put on. Don't worry about the competition. They're not doing a pay-per-view. You're in the spotlight. And it should have been all about their wrestlers and the matchups of the night. It was just sad to see that let down.
Until they can get over that, they aren't going to move on. I mean, it is what it is.
And on top of that too, so Danielson, just on a note, health status after injury scare. So as we know, he's undoubtedly one of the top professional wrestlers still to this day globally. Had an incredible match. But as I mentioned, there was an injury scare during the bout. Now there's an update. So fans who witnessed the epic showdown between Danielson and Ospreay at Dynasty were left worried when the match concluded with Danielson pinned by Ospreay, then remaining absolutely motionless on the mat. Cameras captured the scene as doctors quickly surrounded Danielson, indicating a possible injury. As the medics attended to him, Ospreay interacted with Danielson, seemingly expressing concern for his opponent's condition. This interaction further fueled speculation about the severity of the incident. Now, initially, I was thinking the same thing too. I didn't know that both the guys were playing on it. It wasn't, as far as I'm aware, it wasn't as serious as what was led to believe. They played on it. And I think Danielson had input there, like, let's play on this because people know my neck injury history, But even I thought, oh shit, because I watched when Will performed one of his finishes, the Driver 911 or 91 or something like that, Driver 91, and the landing was a bit sickening when you watch it. But in a recent update, Fightful Select reported that the concerning aftermath again was planned part of the show, designed to add dramatic effect to the match's conclusion. Danielson did suffer a bit of a stinger, but nothing more. The revelation provides relief, though, to fans who feared for Danielson's well-being, reassuring them that his safety was not compromised like it looked like it had been, despite the intense nature of the match's final moment. So he's all right. Yeah, he did get a bit of a stinger, and I thought he would get a bit of a stinger because of the way he landed. And as I said, he's had a history of neck injuries, but he's okay. So if anyone tuning in was still concerned, didn't know any update, he's fine. But yeah, and it did, as I said, it did look bad at the end. He wasn't moving or anything. As I said, they were playing on it. Moving right along. So. This is something I'm excited for, and I've been talking about this guy. He is signed. It's just a matter of when they're going to debut him. So major WWE TV debut anticipated in coming week for a prominent newcomer. So as WWE gears up for its draft, set to kick off this week with stars switching brands and NXT talents making their way to the main roster, the company is poised for a fresh influx of talent to shape its future. Among the latest additions to WWE's roster is Jacob Fatu, who recently concluded his tenure with MLW, where he held prominent position as one of the promotion's top stars. Reports suggest that Fatu finalised his deal with WWE during WrestleMania weekend and was backstage at WrestleMania. That's why I thought he was going to come out during the Roman and Cody match. A move that led to his withdrawal too from a scheduled appearance with GCW during that time frame. Having wrapped up his commitments with MLW following their Super Fight event in February, anticipation has been building for Fatu's imminent debut on WWE television, whether he would be with the new bloodline or against. So according to insights from PW Insider, the werewolf, as he's referred to, his expectations within the company are high for his debut, with speculation rife that he could make his first appearance as early as this coming Friday's SmackDown. Sources within creative circles suggest that Fatu is poised to become a regular fixture on the main roster, signaling WWE's intent to capitalise on his talent and potential moving forward. As WWE continues to cultivate its roster and set the stage for the future, the arrival of Jacob Fatu, known in many circles as the Werewolf, brings a wave of anticipation and excitement. How will his presence impact the landscape of WWE, and what opportunities lie ahead for this emerging star? Well, we'll have to keep a close eye on the WWE programming in the coming weeks, possibly this week's SmackDown, witness the next chapter in his journey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited, man, because this guy is a beast, a literal beast, bro. He's kind of built a little bit like Rikishi, I guess you could say, just not as large. But you know, you'll see when he debuts, if you haven't seen him, he's a big boy. But man,
he looks like a big boy. I mean,
yeah, this guy can do backflips off the top rope, though.
Oh,
yeah, this guy is insane. Like, for a big guy. Look, it's nothing normal. We have seen big guys move around like cruiserweights. You sit there and going, how the hell do they do it?
Well,
but they
remember,
do it.
Bam Bam Bigelow was infamous for that, man.
Yeah. No
Watching
one in their
Bam Bam
wildest
bounce
dreams.
around was like, holy shit.
Yeah, no one in their wildest dreams, like, initially would have ever thought that you would see a guy size of Bam Bam getting up on the top rope, and boy, he proved everybody wrong. This guy's a monster. Hopefully, hey, what's good, Dredd? What's good, brother?
Hey, Dredd. By the way, if they're saying anything nasty about me, let me know, because I'm not reading the chat. So
no one yet. No one's saying anything. I'm waiting for PK to come in, though. We've got to wait for PK to drop in.
Yeah,
but
PK yelled at me because I didn't notice his chat last time. So yeah.
But look, I hope they let him keep. Hopefully, they'll let him keep the werewolf moniker, because it kind of suits him. But I'm interested in to see how he debuts. Are they going to add him to the new bloodline? Is it going to be him, Tama Tonga, and Solo? Or is he going to come in and they're going to have him go against the bloodline? Like, interesting. Interesting. If I'm going to take a wild guess, I think he will join the other two guys in forming the new bloodline, because I think what'll end up happening is the tribal chief that they're talking about, that's who they keep, right? They say, they're on the orders of the tribal chief, and Paul Heyman's like, the last couple of weeks, like, what are you talking about? Who are you talking, They're not talking about...
I was going to mention that. Yeah, they're not talking about Roman.
They're not talking about Roman. They're talking about the final boss, right? And so there has been rumoured plans that there will be bloodline versus bloodline, and The Rock is going to lead the Tama Tonga, Jacob, and Solo as the heel version of the bloodline, and when Roman comes back, it'll be Roman, Jay, and Jimmy leading the babyface side of the bloodline.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. And I
got it. They hopefully they work that out right, because you got to get Jay and Jimmy, to work nice together again.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they haven't started to set that up yet at all.
No. Well, it's probably long planning, because Roman's not expected back anyway until August or September.
Right. Yeah, he's not expected back.
Yeah, but
SummerSlam or something. I think SummerSlam's going to be.
This will lead up to a one-on-one. Like, they'll have their little team battle, and it will lead to the one-on-one fight that everybody's been anticipating for several years between The Rock and Roman Reigns. And the good thing is, now that there's no title on the line, like as in belt-wise, right? Well, that adds the aura of who's going to win that match, right? If Roman still had the belt, well, you kind of know going in, well, they're not going to have Rock beat him, because Rock's only a part-time. But with no belt on the line and only simply who the real tribal chief is on the line, you could have Rock win that.
Yep.
So that's why I'm glad that they actually did halt and wait to do this match, because I said the whole time, I really want to see the match. I do want to see Roman and Rock, but I wanted to see it when Roman had dropped the belt, because while he had the belt, there was no guessing. There was no, such and such got a chance, rah, rah, rah.
Yep.
Right.
And my biggest complaint was there was no reason behind a story for it to happen. They hadn't worked up a reason for it. They were just like, we're going to do this. And you're like, okay.
Just off subject. Now, you mentioned it 2 seconds ago, and now you got Dreadpool going now. He says, if anyone, it'd be me calling you Pineapple King celebrity.
Yeah.
Gotta love Dread. But no, look, it'll be interesting to see. I said, I think on the last episode we were talking, that I believe Roman, when he does come back, will come back as a babyface. And they just leave. Now that Vince is gone, they just need to let it happen naturally. So obviously, when he first comes back, because he's actually going to be gone now for a while, he's probably going to be instantly cheered anyway, just like anybody else that's gone away for a while. And say when they left, they were a heel. But when they come back, the first thing the crowd, You know, so he's going to get an instant babyface reaction anyway, just because he'd be returning. And if they do build the new bloodline up right with The Rock controlling the show from behind the scenes, it's going to make people hate that side of it, and then so they'll naturally gravitate to start to cheer for Roman anyway. And that's why I'd like, when they get to that, because you'd obviously have Solo, Jacob Fatu, and Tama Tonga as the three in-ring guys per se, because Rock's more of a part-time. So there's 4 there, right? But as I said, you'd have Rock, Jimmy, and Jay. Either they bring in, I think it's their younger cousin that we could team with them in, he's referred to as Zilla Fatu.
Right.
Or if you don't have him, then you bring in Rikishi. Even though he might not come in as a wrestling star, he's got history there with The Rock, and it'll be another older head in the storyline, and then you can still have your 3 guys and Rock and Kishi doing their thing, bouncing off.
I don't know. Maybe they've finally been watching my tweets, and maybe they're going, you know what, we really do need to bring the council in on this and make a story out of this.
Yeah.
You know,
especially if these two, if it's going to lead to a match of who the real tribal chief is. And realistically, this is the match to determine the real tribal chief, because Roman and Rock are out of these current group, you know, even though Rock's been around for a while, but they're the eldest.
I know. So, I do have a question for you. Were you as surprised as I was that they let Solo take the mic and actually say stuff this week, Friday?
Well, I was happy that they did. Like, I was like, well, this is a nice change of pace. This is something new. We're actually hearing the man talk. I think if they continue to let him do that, he more and more confident. That's the only way. You might just have to throw. Sometimes you have to throw some of them in the deep end and just go, look, the confidence will come. Just go out there each week. You're going to get better and better. It's the only way. Maybe, you know, as they say, sometimes with a lot of jobs, you got to learn on the job. Well, that's what he's doing.
You know what? And he's got a good teacher, because Paul has been really good about teaching those guys how to use the mic.
Now I was just about to get to him. It'll be interesting to see who he ends up siding with in the end of it, because we always know that he's always generally been that heel manager and only managing the heels. It would be interesting to see, does he side with the new bloodline, side with The Rock and be The Rock's wise man, I guess you could say? Or does he
he's going to stay
with Roman?
He's going to stick with Roman, I bet.
It'd be nice.
He's a coward. He's going to go whoever he thinks going to win, dude.
No, I know, but it would be nice and something new to see Paul Heyman be a babyface manager, because you've never seen that before.
Yeah.
He's always played a heel and been a heel manager for the heel guy.
He's literally been the same character for 40 years. Seriously.
Yeah.
Actually, for longer than that.
The fans love him. We all love him, right? And so he could work, right? Like, if he stayed with Roman and been a babyface man, those fans are still, as soon as he says, my name, they all go, my name is Paul Heyman. You know, and so it could work. It could work. Yeah. Even if it's just the shortest of fucking runs, I would love to see the shortest of little babyface runs with him to stick with Roman, right? But I do. I have this feeling he'll go against Roman, and he'll side with the final boss. Especially with how aggressive the final boss is, with his character and that. Geez, you wouldn't want him to grab and hold of Paul Heyman. He'll whoop him. I whoop that boy. I made that boy bleed. But no.
Well, and you saw, like, when what's his name slapped the phone out of Paul's hand. You know. Yeah. I gotta say, Paul does a great job acting.
He does. I love it. His eyes popping out of his head, and then when Tama Tonga had him, like, Paul was up against the door, and Tama's coming in, and he goes, "My orders." He's sort of shaking and shit. I'm like, I know what to do. But he's brilliant, man. He adds to the whole situation. I love it. That's Paul Heyman with his expressions, man. Has always been just top class, just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it'll be interesting, man, how they go about this, and as I said, how they interject Jacob into this. Obviously, he's going to be the next member to get injected, and we might not have much longer to find out. Maybe on this week's SmackDown. But moving right along to our final topic of the evening, which has been a big one the last couple of weeks. Last 2 weeks that it's been happening. We even had a new one this morning. So WWE, as they do each year, have gone on a recent release spree. The names involved does not shock me or surprise me. So initially, we found out, what was it, towards the end of last week, over the weekend, WWE made round of releases. The list of released talents included Indashir, which was Rhea, Sangha, and Jinder Mahal.
Which is funny to me, because remember when they reintroduced Jinder a month or so ago, and I went in there, I am, and I came on the phone and went, Jinder who? Who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, now he's got now
now he's gone.
Now he's gone. So the three of them are gone. The only Chinese superstar that they had, Xia Li, is now gone. And Zion Quinn, who was in NXT for a while and then fell off the face of the freaking earth. I don't know what happened to him. Internally the releases were attributed to budget cuts, although specifics conveyed to the talent remain undisclosed. Affected individuals were informed of their release on Friday evening. None of those names were surprising in the least. And sometimes they do it when they're about to bring others up that they're going to use more. Look, Jinder...
I was going to say Jinder does kind of surprise me, because it looked like they were getting ready to give him a push.
Yeah, I think it was more just to try and get The Rock some time, beating the crap out of somebody.
Maybe.
But no, look, they weren't doing much with them. Same with Xia, and as I said, Xia Li, they were building her up to start, by the looks of it, having a feud with Lyra Valkyria, and then the feud just completely freaking stopped. So she was doing nothing. So I dare say she'll probably head over to Japan or something like that. Zion Quinn, look, I'm happy he's gone, because he was just plain and simple useless. Such a boring character, and couldn't wrestle, and he was slow, and he was green. So that's probably another reason why he fell off the face of the earth and they didn't use him. Sangha, boring. Veer was boring. Veer could wrestle a little bit, but Sangha just... Yeah. So, look, none of the names surprised me. The latest one, though, did surprise me. Von Wagner was released today.
Let's see, I didn't see that. I hadn't seen that one.
Yeah, so one name that's been swirling in discussions as the draft geared up was Von Wagner, who was being considered for a promotion to the main roster. However, recent reports indicate that Wagner, whose real name is Cal Bloom, has been released from his contract. Revealed today that Wagner was being deliberated upon as a possible call-up from NXT to either Raw or SmackDown. And as we know, he was prominent on NXT with his little manager guy, right? And, they did the whole injury storyline when he was in the hospital. He had his head bandaged up, and then he was making his comeback, and I thought they were doing it really well. He was putting people through tables, and with that guy as his mouthpiece, I mean, the guy had talent. This is why this, for me, is the shock. So he was about to get called up by the seams of it, but then conversely, Fightful Select disclosed that Wagner was among the names released. With the names that were released on Friday, his was released today. And disappointing, because I thought they were going he was prominent, and I thought he was prominent in a few storylines. In his most recent appearances, he found himself embroiled in feuds with Bron Breakker and Lexus King, the son of Brian Pillman. His last match was early this month in April, where he competed against King. So it was interesting. This was. But the thing with this particular release, in my opinion, is, and this comes from Ringside News, Von Wagner's release exposes NXT creative disarray in WWE. So Wagner's exit marks the end of a 5-year tenure, with WWE signaling a significant transition in his career. Following his inclusion in the WWE main roster draft last year, there were questions surrounding Wagner's status on the main roster. Despite being listed as a free agent during the draft, he quickly returned to NXT without making at least a substantial impact on the main roster. Made more of an impact in NXT. His sole appearance on the main roster was in a top contender battle royal in May of last year. And after that, he was promptly resumed his tenure in NXT. So it looked like he was on a good trajectory. It really did. He was in some prominent feuds and big man, that could really go in the ring. And I thought, surely they're going to bring him up soon because, he was another one that I think had been toiling away in NXT for a while now and was probably ready for the main roster. But it highlights a disconnect, though, between the trajectory for certain people and experience level within WWE and then the writing, We know right. The wrestling world continues to evolve. It always does, nearly on the daily. But this one did have me scratching my head. The others that I just mentioned didn't.
I gotta say though, I wonder how much of this is still kind of residual of the effect that Vince being gone, Rock coming in, Paul kind of taking the reins. How much of this is still some of that, working its way out?
Yeah.
I know it's been 6 months or whatever, but still it takes time to get all that stuff. I'm sure there've been a lot of discussions on their end, what's working, what's not,
Yeah, exactly.
Things like that.
And so this one I think for me was disappointing. I really feel for Von. I hope he gets picked up elsewhere because, as I said, he's talent there. I think at the moment, though, I mean, he can do a little bit of talking on mic. I think he does need a manager, but out of all these releases in the last few days, this one was very perplexing because, as I said, he'd been a prominent fixture on NXT. He was, in the minds of NXT fans. They were loving him. And I thought, okay, they teased it last year, as I just mentioned in the draft. Maybe this draft he would get drafted to Raw or SmackDown because I think it was time for him and his little manager, I'll just based on his manager's name, to move up, right? And he had like a bit of a Sid Vicious look and appeal and vibe. Psycho Sid, I could have seen him being practically nearly a new version of him. Which I think they've sort of lacking that sort of real dangerous, maniacal kind of player on the main roster, especially now that they no longer have Bray Wyatt. But
right,
yeah, I was a bit perplexed when I read this, and I feel for the guy. As I said, the others weren't surprising to me because they just a lot of them were boring or untalented, but the biggest thing, they just weren't being used. So might as well cut the dead weight, But this guy was being used, so it's a bit like what was one of the releases last year that perplexed you a little bit, and even myself. Ali. He was right in the middle of the bloody title feud, and the next minute, he's released. I'm like, huh?
Oh yeah, and when he was due to have a match like the following week.
For the belt against Dom, and then he's gone. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? But sometimes you do. You go and read through the list of people that have been released in Philly or releases, companies too, and there's usually one, sometimes two, that stand out. And you're like, what? Why? That these names I understand they're not being used. I haven't seen them in a while. But this guy over here, like, what the heck, This is this year's What the Heck. Like, I was like, and he's a young guy. How old is he?
Yeah.
Have a look. That's why I was like, maybe you're right. He's 28, so I mean, he's a young guy. Former college football player as well. And he had a nice build. As I said, especially when he came out in the black vest, he just, as I said, I just saw Psycho Sid Vicious, man. Like, it would have been cool to see what he could do on the main roster, and I think he needed to make that jump. But WWE obviously had.
But even I've said before that seems like their main roster. Sometimes it feels like it's overloaded.
Well, it is. Sometimes they do. Yeah. Like, yeah, they are a bit bloated, and clearly, you know, you've only got a certain amount of time each week. So you got 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 5 hours, 2 hours of NXT. That's 7. So 7 hours a week, right? Because I'm not including that WWE speed. That's just little, you know, minute matches.
You know, I haven't watched any of those.
Neither have I.
I always forget about them. Yeah.
But so they got 7 hours each week, right? So yeah, obviously you need talent to fill those 7 hours, but there's going to also be talent that's just not going to be used and utilized.
Right.
When they do the next lot of cuts, one person I want to see on the list though is that Bronson Reed, because I just don't think this guy is. For me, he's boring, man. I mean, I know you're a big fan of. No.
I've always said he's slow and he telegraphs his moves too quickly.
He is.
I mean, it's like.
No, look, I think he needs to go, bro. Like, they probably couldn't do it this time around. He might have too much left on his contract, but when it gets closer, if he gets released, when it gets closer to his, I'm telling you, I'll be the first just to laugh. I'll be like, well, you know, this makes sense to me, you know, because a guy like him is only going to last so long. It really is. It's not even about size or anything like. It's just he is slow and he is boring.
Right.
That's it. You know, he is
they
slow.
They keep trying to make more of him than he is, and I think it's kind of
boring. Like, he looks really uncomfortable for starters wearing suits for starters, and he looks uncomfortable when he talks, as if it's more forced, and you can kind of tell there's written off a script. I mean, I know they've all got scripts right, but a lot of the guys and gals, they talk so fluidly that you wouldn't be able to tell that they're written off a script or a teleprompter or anything like that. Him, you can, right? But yeah, he's just, I don't know. He's just boring, man. He really is. He's a bit of a snooze fest. But it happens. In saying that, I'm guessing none of these, maybe except for Von, was a surprise for you.
Well, like I said, the one was just because I thought they were starting to give him a little bit of a push. Yeah, gender. But then again, I didn't find gender that interesting. My personal.
No, he's another guy. Like, okay, one thing I'll get. Yes, he's got talent in the ring, but he's just boring, and his character was boring. But he can wrestle. I'll give him that. And I wish him the best wherever he apparently he's got from what I've been reading, he's got a lot of interest. TNA's interested, AEW's interested, GCW's interested. So he's got interest out there for him, which is good. At least he can pick up a job elsewhere pretty quickly. But one thing I'd like to see him do, don't go in there being your stereotypical Indian, you know, the Maharaja crap. Like, do something different.
Oh, that stuff, yeah.
I want to see him do something different, because to me that made him seem too one-dimensional. Show me something else. Because the funny thing is, he might have Indian heritage, but he's actually Canadian. That's where he's born. That's where he's from. But he's just got Indian heritage. But I don't want to see it. I hate when it doesn't matter what company does it, but they, you know, we're going to get this guy from India, so let's make him a typical Indian Punjabi character. It's like, why do they have to be that? Why can't they just do whatever and be a monster or whatever, you know. Or
Yeah, we've come a long way from he's from Iran, so he must be a sheik. And
yeah, exactly. It's like, let him just be
Mm.
whatever, you know. It's like they tried to do that, and I think that's why it failed. The little dude they ended up picking up on one of their Saudi tours, and he was part of that Maximum Models. What was his name? Mansoor.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Mansoor, right?
Oh yeah.
Before he did the Maximum Model stuff, they were trying to portray him as a typical Saudi Arabian. It's like, yeah, he's from there, but like, you've got Sami Zayn there who's Syrian, but you don't make him dress up in their traditional garb, and he's a Syrian. Like, I'm like,
Well, because Sami Zayn looks more Irish than Syrian. Actually,
well, he does. Yeah, he does. But you know, it's just like, why would you do it? You know, unless it's when you're discussing it with them, that is something that they want to do. I mean, okay, if they're
I was gonna say that's the exception. If it's something that they're going, I want to do this.
Because I can imagine like Sheamus doing the whole, Celtic warrior and doing a lot with Irish.
Yep.
And, I mean, makes sense. He's as white can be, and red hair. He probably does have the nipple. Well, there's really no point in me fucking portraying anything else. I'm Irish. Whereas Becky's Irish, but you could. I love the progression. When they first brought her in, she was wearing this green get-up, like she looked like a freaking leprechaun, and doing Irish dancing and shit. And I'm glad they moved her away. Like, I like the whole man character, and they allowed her to.
It took me a while to get into the man thing, but I like it now. I've got
the evolution of her is fantastic, because I'm telling you now, she wouldn't have gone far just doing the whole Irish ass kicker, dancing like an Irish dance. Like, it was good initially just to introduce her and stuff, and this is a girl from, but and look, Lyra Valkyria. Now she's coming in as a real dark character, but she's Irish as well. But they don't portray her as, Lily D, love Funny D, look at my little leprechaun at the top of gold. I'm like, oh my God, like, you don't have to do that. Like,
So I might like to get my hands on her Lucky Charms. I'm just saying.
But, no, I mean, I just prefer it when they, as I said, unless it's input and that's what they want to do, then I don't think they have to be the stereotypical, person that, wherever they may be from, because they certainly, like, for example, right, Grayson Waller's from Australia, but they haven't sent him out there in a fucking, like a Cobra fucking cowboy looking fucking hat and boots and stuff. Like, he comes out more looking, if you ask me, he comes out more looking like just a boxer.
I can almost bet you that Vince asked him about doing that. I can almost bet you, because Vince has a very,
Well, he comes out, until you hear him talk, you wouldn't be able to tell, but
right.
He just comes out looking like a boxer because he wears boxing shorts
to
the ring. So he looks like he should be in a boxing ring, not a wrestling ring. And because he does the whole ducking and weaving too. Like, I've been wondering if he actually did some amateur boxing maybe, but see, they just let him be this brash, cocky, colourful, arrogant character, sort of the Miz, but leveled up 1,000. Essentially. And not, they don't turn. Rhea is Australian, but they have her playing this real dark character that fits her, dark metal rocker, whatever you. And so the only reason people know that she's Australian is because we're, obviously like any other wrestler, where they're built from and stuff. But it's like Dakota Kai. She's Kiwi. She's from New Zealand. But they don't have her coming out there in a grass skirt and tribal tattoos all over her face and everything like that. They just let her be herself, which is great, So it's just like the Samoan boys, like any of them. They don't have to come out in skirts and dance. And that's why I thought, it worked for a while and fans were into it, the Usos, but I knew it was going to come a time where they had to drop that gimmick and just do what they are now. Now you got main event Jey Uso. Yeah, he's Samoan, but he's not coming out in traditional Samoan garb and bare feet and all the other jazz that comes with it. It was different times back in the day. Hence why when you had like the wild Samoans and everything like that, you know, they played them out as Samoans with their wild hair and traditional garb and bare feet wrestling and you know, like you mentioned, the Iron Sheik, etc., etc., etc. Sergeant
Nikolai Volkov was the other one.
Yeah, the Russian Bear, you know, played him out, even though he'd been in America for so fucking long. I'm like, well, why does he have to be the Russian Bear for? Like, come on now.
I mean, because they were playing it for what it was at the time.
The poor guy, the Canadian guy that had to come out as the Mountie.
Oh yeah, I remember.
I was sitting there going, "Oh, this
that.
poor guy, man, coming out in the Mounties." Imagine trying to wrestle in that.
You know, I think the only stereotypical one we still have is the guy who comes out as the Italian mobster. You know, but I guess, you know, that's
okay,
I
mean, well, that works for him because he's
dude.
saying that he's from mean streets of the Bronx and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we know, you know, New York's settled by a lot of Italians back in the day. So I mean that's okay and it fits, and it's like I guess you could say he's almost playing like a Godfather type role.
That's what he is. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So I don't mind that because it's not like he's coming out waving an Italian flag and, you know, pretending to be Italian, and that he's just more being like a underground New York mob boss kind of thing, you know. Right. And so that's cool, you know. I can get behind that.
And they're not overplaying it. They're not overplaying.
No,
they're not doing the every time he comes out to the ring, he sits in the middle ring and they come on, kiss his ring.
Yeah, and if anything, like it comes off very natural, to be quite honest. Like it doesn't seem forced. Like he actually legitimately comes across as if he is a mob boss, which I think's good. Yeah. I think that's what you want. You don't want it to come across and people sit back and go, this seems forced. This guy doesn't seem like a mob boss, whereas Tony does, you know?
Yeah.
Especially the way that he holds himself and presents himself to people too, and talks and that. You're like, yeah, you can sort of really believe and get behind that. But yeah, like, hopefully some of this new talent that they interject now does well, because as I said, they had to get rid of some because there was too much bloat, and you don't want to be paying people to be on the roster just to sit at home, you know. And that's what a lot of these, except for Von, that's what a lot of these were doing. They weren't
right. They were sitting at home, or they were being used as beat up dolls at the training center.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm quite sure they'll probably paying them more because of the type of contracts they would have been on, than paying them less just to be ragdolls at the training center. But look, they had to do it, so it is what it is. But the debut that I'm really looking forward to outside Jacob Fatu is Bo Dallas. I'm very intrigued if they're by the looks of it. I'm thinking what we've been seeing on SmackDown with how all of a sudden the video goes funny and you're seeing that little what do they call it, scan graphic thing, barcode looking thing that's been coming up and interfering with the feed, and I think that's him as Uncle Howdy.
Right.
I'm looking forward to that because
me too. That looks like if they do that well, he will do well, and there will be.
I think he learned
too. Yeah.
I think he learned a lot from his brother, and whilst he may never be the brilliant creative mind that his brother was, I think he has got a lot of creativity in him, and I think he learned a lot from his brother, especially essentially being his brother's understudy for quite a bit of time there as he was playing the Uncle Howdy character, you know, especially when he returned last. So that should be interesting. It's a matter of when, not if, with his debut. Right. Obviously, they've got as I said, I believe they're really leading up to it.
I'm actually surprised they didn't do it. Given the release of the special, I'm surprised they didn't do it at the end of WrestleMania somehow.
Yeah, and I mean the end of that special was another tease
Yeah.
too. And now they're doing this stuff. It only seems to be happening on SmackDown. So clearly, when he does come back, it's going to be on SmackDown. But yeah, I think they'll do it for a little bit longer yet, and then maybe at Backlash he might show up,
Right.
or the SmackDown after Backlash, because obviously the first one they're interjecting is going to be Jacob Fatu, which could be as soon as this week on SmackDown, which will be, as I said, it'll be interesting. I think he's going to be a part of the bloodline, but it would be cool if he wasn't, and he was coming in just going to do his own thing and wanting to tear them apart. That'd be pretty funny. Something different. But I think most fans are predicting him because he is a family member to be a part of it. So they kind of need a third there with Solo and Tama Tonga too. It'll be interesting. And Jimmy's clearly going to play that he's out for a while after copping his beat down.
Yeah.
That was just evil, man. I love you, brother. I love you. Whack! Oh,
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Damn. Jimmy didn't even see that coming.
They depending on how they handle this, they may revitalize the bloodline storyline though, depending on how they handle it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Especially if it's The Rock pulling all the strings. That adds a whole new element.
Yep.
We all were waiting on it. We thought it might have happened at WrestleMania. It didn't happen. But we were all speculating, when's he going to turn on Roman? When's he going to turn on Roman? I think this is how he's going to turn on Roman. Because Rock can call Roman a bitch and say, I didn't lose at WrestleMania. I pinned Cody the night before, and you got pinned by Cody the night after. You lost. I didn't lose. And it's true, though. He made that a point before he bowed out. He said to Cody, just remember, I beat you. So
yep.
He's got two feuds that he's building up to, clearly. Obviously, he's got the feud that he wants a match with Cody, but then he's obviously going to be building a feud and having a match with Roman. So those are I don't know which order it'll go in, but those are the two matches that Rock's going to have. I'd probably like to see him first deal with the whole Roman thing and do that match first, and then at WrestleMania next year, him and Cody go at it for that belt. And then he can put Cody over.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the Rock versus Cody thing until next year sometime.
No, there's already been talk that apparently it's been speculated that might be the main event of night 2 of next year's WrestleMania is Rock and Cody for that belt. But you're not going to give Rock the belt, so clearly he'll lose that match. But if this is why I think if he's going to lose against Cody, then I think you need to have him win against Roman. So if he's coming back for 2 matches, you've got to give him a win in one. And the win would be coming in the match that there's no belt on it.
The nice thing I like about it now, and something, and we know I wasn't sure about it at first, is Rock is kind of looking at the landscape and seeing which way is the best way for it to go.
Yeah.
He's not just kind of pushing his agenda down our throats like Vince would.
No, which is that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So we'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds in the coming months, because that's why I think he will do the Roman match this year, because he apparently is going to wrestle one more time in 2024, Rock, which would have to be against Roman, my guess. And if it didn't happen at the biggest show of the summer in August at SummerSlam, then it's going to happen at one of the 2 big Saudi shows, which was another thing that was discussed. So it'll either be at one of the Saudi shows, or it'll be to headline the Saudi show, or it'll be at SummerSlam. Because you wouldn't want to do that match on a B grade pay-per-view, as I consider it. Like you wouldn't do it at Backlash, for example. You want to have that on a grand stage. If I had to pick, I'd personally do it at SummerSlam, because the Saudi shows, they make them big and extravagant, but in my eyes, they're still a B tier show. In reality, they're not like a big pay-per-view. They seem like a big pay-per-view and a big deal, but they're not. Really, they're just in huge arenas. I'd do it at SummerSlam. That'd be, I think, the perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
So it's realistically the next biggest pay-per-view for them, like A tier. You know, WWE's got their B tier and then they got their A tier. Not that there's anything ever wrong with their B tier pay, but I'm just saying, like, Royal Rumble's A tier, WrestleMania's A tier, SummerSlam's A tier, and I'd say Survivor Series kind of borderline nearly there as well.
It depends on what matches they line up for Survivor Series.
But outside those four, all the rest are usually more considered just B tier. Whereas Triple H used to like to refer to Daniel Bryan as a B+ player, you know. Backlash, you know, they got to have their monthly pay-per-view, but they don't all have to be A tier and extravagant and, you know, a huge show. But for Rock and Roman, I think outside it being at SummerSlam, it probably wouldn't do it justice. They didn't do it at SummerSlam, maybe you'd have to do it at Royal Rumble, I don't know. But it has to be one of the big ones, in my opinion. It's a real toss-up, too, with some years SummerSlam you'd consider a B tier pay-per-view, and then you'd consider Elimination Chamber an A tier. Those two seem to swap around, really, like, between the two of them. This year, I'd say Elimination Chamber was probably an A tier pay-per-view. It was really, really good. But maybe Survivor Series this year is on the down low. But yeah, we'll see. But no, that's all we got for you this week, folks. And shout out, before we get into our outro, shout out to Rhea Ripley. Hopefully she doesn't have to have surgery, and therefore she's only out for 3 months. Because if she has to have surgery, she'll be out for 8 months or more.
Ouch.
Yeah. They were calling it a sprain of the ACL. That's what they were calling it. But depends on how bad that is whether or not she can just rest and relax and it'll heal that way, which will be the shorter term, or if she will need surgery. So it's all going to come down when she needs surgery. But it sucks because the poor girl was building all this momentum, had all this momentum, and I'm sure they had clear plans of her really breaking and smashing records and setting the bar as the longest reigning women's champ in history. You know, that's where I think they were going with it. And unfortunately, in the backstage skit the other week, she hit the wall on the wrong angle, and what's ended up happening has happened. So, and I think a little bit of recklessness was in there from Liv Morgan. I think Liv got caught up in the moment a little bit too much and maybe was a little bit reckless, but she could also not project how someone's going to hit the wall when you're throwing them into a wall. So, you know, it was an accident, and you know, at the end of the day.
And it also could have come down to shit the wrong part of the wall. It was stronger than, you know, it should have been. You know?
Yeah. So, look, she'll be back bigger, badder than ever, I'm sure. And
like we said earlier, it'll feed into a great storyline, probably.
It will.
Whatever, you know? Yeah,
it will, especially if Liv Morgan's got the belt at the time of her return. That'll be a clear setup there. But the setup is, as I said, anytime someone gets injured and has to relinquish their belt, that's their setup. Well, I never lost the belt. I want my belt back. You know, so she'll come back and she'll go on a tear. They can start another long reign again. As I said, fans weren't bored of her as a champ. She's not a boring character at all. So I think they could put the belt back on her when she returns and go on another long run. And people aren't going to care because she's not boring. She's there every week. People are intrigued by the segments. You know, it's
going to be interesting to see what her group does without her, because they're already starting to set up some of that stuff.
I don't know if they look. I'm putting a big question mark on them. I don't know if that group will be around when if she. I put it this way.
Yeah.
If she's out longer than 3 months, so if she needs the surgery, and she's out 8-9 months, I don't think Judgment Day is going to be around when she comes back. If she's only out the 3 months, maybe they're still there.
Well, here's the thing: is they could have her come, maybe come back and still do like spots and stuff. She just can't wrestle. She can't get in the ring.
No,
They've had to do that before with talent,
Yeah, it all depends on how they're going to go with it, and how maybe they wanted to stay. If it's that bad, they wanted to stay home, so she's not even at ringside, so anything couldn't go wrong, kind of thing. That might accidentally keep her out longer if she accidentally took a bump. You never know. We'll have to see how they do.
I can tell you right now, you're going to see tonight. They're really setting some stuff up. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but you're going to want to watch this after we're done. Wow. Some stuff that Damien just said. So also reminder, the next pay-per-view is in 2 weeks. This was a short break between pay-per-views.
Yeah. Backlash.
Is Backlash 2 weeks.
Is it France?
April 4th. Or whatever. Yeah.
It's France, isn't it too?
Is it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's France. So it'll be interesting to see what storylines lead into it. But like you said, Priest is clearly he really has, since Rhea's gotten out. He's really taken a lead, and they never really, they've always said they don't have a leader, but he's kind of taken on a leadership role within that group. And I just think it's just going to disband, because clearly he's frustrated and getting sick of bloody Dom and the garden gnome losing all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
He's not a garden gnome, he's an Oompa Loompa. Let's get it
right. Oompa Loompa, yeah. Right. So they're getting frustrated with them losing all the time. And I don't know, I think some animosity might be starting to grow between Bella and him, because they don't have the tag belts anymore. Bella's looking over at him and he's the world champion. Might want to crack world title. That'll be interesting. Maybe they have a match at Backlash. It'll be interesting how they set it up. But no, that's all we got for you this week, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I hope everybody, if you got to watch Dynasty live or over the weekend, I hope you enjoyed it. Otherwise, as I said, catch up on it, or at the very least, watch the Danielson and Will Ospreay. Absolutely phenomenal. But until next time, Paul, did you want to let the fine folks absolutely everywhere they can find you, brother?
Sure, you can find me at Twitter at CerebralPaul1, Twitch at CerebralPaul. On Tuesdays, you can find me on the Xbox Ambassador channel for Gaming Differently with Cerebral Paul. And then on Tuesday nights with the Retro Renegades. On Thursdays, you can find me back here on 4GQ TV for our regular show. And on Fridays, you can find me Wasted with Wise.
There you go. And I'm sure there's
but I almost forgot. Unless something happens on Sunday, I will be joining the Lords on their podcast. So,
ooh, nice.
Ooh.
Be prepared and buckle up for an 8-hour podcast. Those boys like to go long, but at least they're entertaining, so you should be quite entertained. Shout out to the Lords, good people. Of course, you can find me everywhere on the app formerly known as Twitter, on the X there, and the other one that I'm using, Blue Sky, which is a Twitter equivalent, run by the former owner and creator. Find me on there under MoonMan, on the Xbox app, on Steam, if you want to add me there, if you're on PC or Xbox, whatever. Other than that, you can
whatever, just kind of whatever,
wherever you float, wherever the boat floats. Other than that, you can find me Monday evenings with my partner in crime here, the Cerebral one himself, talking all things wrestling with Pop-Up Powerbomb, and every Wednesday evening with Ryan, and soon to be joining us, get it right, Sentinel Gaming, aka Sarge, aka Steve, will be joining us on there, man of many names. So it'd be good to have him on there joining us. As I said, because Chuck's healthy, but he's not there anymore as a permanent because he can't always make it every week, but he will drop in on us surprisingly because I just send him the link. He just randomly drops in. The last time he did it, he scared the crap out of Ryan. He's like, what the? I thought it was funny. Yeah, we got some guests coming up there. Outside that, I hope everybody has hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, the 4GQ TV channel, please do so. Because apart from our great content that we put on here, there's much, much more, including many, many interesting, intriguing interviews that Paul and Carlo upload to the channel.
Yep, we've dropped a bunch recently.
I
So
know.
check our YouTube channel for all of our recent interviews.
Hit the notification bell, and you'll know when anybody goes live, including the girls, who I still believe are on a
Sunday. I think they're on Sunday evenings.
I know. I think they first initially started on a Saturday, then they moved to a Sunday. So I was like, hopefully they haven't changed days again.
I think they're still on Sunday.
No, that's good. So you can check them out, the All Women's Gaming Podcast. Or they talk about everything, but go check them out and shout the ladies out. But apart from that, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their evening or day, wherever you are, and enjoy the rest of your week. Good night, everybody.